What is good, everybody? Welcome in to the Bluebloods official podcast of FCS Football Central on SI. I'm your host, Zach McKinnell, joined by a special guest today, UC Davis head coach Tim Plough. Coach, how we feeling today? Busy time, spring ball, everything going on. How we doing?
Yeah, feeling great, man. Thankful to be here. Appreciate you guys. It's exciting time. We're starting up pretty soon, so it's good to have some football back.
Absolutely, Coach. I want to go back to last season, right? It was a historic year, your first season, and there's a lot of pressure on first-year head coaches. A lot of the times, coaches at all levels, right, don't get the 4 or 5 years that they once did. You have to find instant success. When did you know last year's team was going to be as successful and special as it ended up being?
Yeah, I think I knew in camp that we had a lot of veteran guys that really wanted to be good. Um, I remember in the off season driving into work in the summertime and seeing 100 guys out there doing a player run practice with no coaches, and thought, okay, we got a chance here. But then we were fortunate. We played at Southern Utah early in the year, won a close game, and then played Idaho at home. And I think they were top 5 in the country, and we won that game. I think when we got over those 2 games, it felt like, all right, we've played some tough teams. We've played well. I think we're battle tested. And I thought that we had a chance to do something pretty cool if we could stay together, and we did. So it was a good season.
How important was it for you, even going into this year, right, to get that experience in the postseason? Because playoff experience is invaluable, right? Especially in terms of guys growing up and knowing what it's like to play late into December. How big is that for the guys that you have coming back for 2025?
Yeah, I think I've been in FCS playoffs before as an assistant, but even for myself as a head coach, just preparing the team and the message you want to give, and how we prepare the staff. It was great to go through that from the head coach's seat. But we talk every year about we want to be a championship team, and I think for our guys to experience playing 14, 15 games and what that really feels like, our strength staff understanding what that's going to look like, all that's invaluable as we start to look at how we can, build our program so that we can sustain that year in and year out. And so really fortunate that we had a season like that. And hopefully that just is one of many opportunities where we can get there and see how far we can go.
When you got the call that the UC Davis job was open, was it a no-brainer for you? I mean, you played there, you coached most of your career there. Was this almost like a dream job, a dream opportunity for you?
It's definitely always been at the top of the list for my wife and I, just being alumni. Just a lot of gratitude for this place. Really love Davis, wanting to raise your family somewhere. So it's always been a dream job. I think at the time it came open, you're trying to go through just the career path. What do you want your career path to be? At this point, you got opportunities to be Power 4 offensive coordinator. You got opportunity to be a head coach at your alma mater. What does that look like for you, and what do you want? And I think we sat down and talked about, the money for us wasn't the most important factor. We can obviously make more money, but it was more about raising our family and being somewhere where we can control the environment. And, felt like Davis was the place so you could do that, be here a long time, raise your kids, and have a chance to win. So it was a dream job, and it's pretty crazy. Every week I think to myself how fortunate I am to be here.
Coach, before we shift into next season in your career as a coach, Lan Larison, we've had him on the show, going to be, in my opinion, should be a no-brainer draft pick with everything he can do from special teams to receiving to being a dominant running back, a pass blocker. Talk a little bit about his development and pitch to the NFL franchises why Lan Larison should be a guy on their draft radar.
Yeah, I think he's a no-brainer NFL player. And, we just had his pro day 2 days ago. And, we had all 32 teams here watching him work out, which I thought was a good sign. I think what I've tried to explain to people is his makeup. He grew up in Idaho with a great family, a family of hardworking, blue-collar people. Heavily involved, obviously, in the rodeo scene, but he's also had family members in the NFL. And so this guy was the #1 steer wrestler in the United States at the age of 17. I mean, this guy's a tough kid. Played quarterback his whole life, and so has a real sharp aptitude to pick up the game. And then, you think about just his makeup. The guy got offered $400,000-$500,000 to leave Davis and go play at SEC schools, and stayed for no money, and played with his guys at his school. That type of loyalty is pretty rare. But then I think from just a tangible standpoint, I think the special teams value is huge in the NFL. You got to create value for yourself. He's a guy I think that could be, the second or third tailback on an NFL roster and start on all 4 special teams units and be a huge contributor on special teams. And I think that's what the NFL teams are looking for. So I've been telling them that he's a guy, if you let him in your building, you're not going to let him out. And I think what's going to have to be a tough decision for teams is, do you want to wait and try to do him as an undrafted free agent? And if you do that, now you got to negotiate with 20 other teams. Or I think you take the leap and you draft him just to make sure you get him because you don't want to play against him. So I expect him to get drafted, but I've seen weirder things happen. I think either way, I think he's going to have a long NFL career, and just really proud of Lan and what he's done for Davis. To have 32 NFL teams on our campus, he deserves all the credit for that. And so that was a cool moment for us.
Absolutely. Coach, I guess you coming up through the coaching ranks was very unconventional, man. You were named the offensive coordinator at 25 years old. And that is something that almost nobody else in the country can say. When you look back on yourself at 25, just in that moment, how overwhelming was that? Because I think back, because I'm only 28 right now. When I think back 3 years ago, there's no way I'm ready to be a D1 offensive coordinator. How important was it for you to get that early opportunity to jumpstart your overall coaching career, which has led you to this point?
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Still doesn't to this day. But I think I had to make a decision at that age of what do I think is best. I had some opportunities to go be a grad assistant at some big schools. Or I could stay here and coach right away. And, in talking with people I really trusted, it felt like the best way to learn was to do it. And so, they gave me an amazing opportunity to coordinate at that age. Obviously, I had shown, good knowledge of the offense, ability to motivate, a lot of detail, those kind of things, but still not prepared to do anything like that. So it was definitely some tough days learning on the job, but that's one of the reasons why I wanted to be the head coach here was just the loyalty and the love that they had for me at a young age. I really wanted to repay that now on the back end. So it was an amazing opportunity, but yeah, looking back, wild, still doesn't make sense, but we had a lot of fun, learned a lot, and I'm definitely a better coach because of that.
You and Coach Shelton are two of the most respected offensive names just in the FCS, right? How do you guys work together each week in terms of play calling duties, and also on top of that too, just in the flow of the game? How did you dictate that as a head coach / offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Paul Shelton because we don't have the success that we've had without Paul. First off, just having someone that you really trust. It's hard when you get the head coaching job. You think you're going to be able to hire all these guys, but a lot of your friends, maybe they're in a different part of their career. They're making more money, whatever it is. And so you just don't have, a long list of names that you thought you might have. And so to be able to have one of my best friends and someone I really trust that's going to call me out, I think that's important to have someone that's not just a yes man, that knows you personal and feels comfortable calling you out. And so it's definitely a partnership in regards to how we design the offense. At this point, I call the plays, and a lot of that has to just do with, Paul's never been in the offensive coordinator role. And I think our long-term plan is for him to gain experience and to feel more and more comfortable so I can back away from that. And I've learned during the season how difficult it is to be the head coach and call plays. It was probably one of the harder things I've had to do. And the only reason we were able to have success, I think, is because Paul really almost ghost wrote, the game plans and really put us in a good spot where we could be successful. His ability to coach the quarterback, really unique. And so I don't have to worry about that. He did a great job with Miles last year in game, making adjustments. So we talked a lot during the game, talked a lot during the week. So it felt like during the game, there wasn't a lot of guesswork going on. And I think that only happens when you trust someone as deeply as I trust Paul. So I think he's an elite coach. I think he's one of the best offensive coaches in the country. And just really lucky that he's here with me.
How difficult? Because obviously you recruit players to fit your scheme, right? You see a guy's like, okay, I think he can fit in this position in our scheme. But sometimes, coach, your strength is different, right? You might have a really strong wide receiving core. You might have a guy like Land Larison who can do it all. You might have a power back. How do you, as an offensive guy, I guess, keep your offensive identity similar, but also to stay adaptable and be able to change it based on the talent you have year in and year out?
I think especially at a school like Davis, where you don't really get the first pick, you're going to need to create a system that evolves around the players. It can't be a system where the players have to fit you. You got to fit the players. And so what we try to do is create conceptually things that create issues for the defense, but year by year, who's actually the guy doing that might change. And so, in 2017, 2018, we had Keelan Doss, who's still in the NFL, was a great receiver for us. And so really the offense was built around, okay, he's the queen on the chessboard. We got to move him around, line him up in different spots, obviously throw him the ball, but also use him to get other people open. And then now this year, your best players are running back. And so, all right, we know we're going to hand it to him 20 times. That makes it easier. But we got to find 10 other ways to get him the ball. And then also everything else we do, we got to use him to get everybody else open and to create some issues for the defense. And so I think you want to think of it like a chess match. Find your queen. Who's the queen on your chessboard? And then start everything with that queen. And where you move that on the board is going to make the defense have to react. And then once you figure out how the defense is reacting to that movement, you can find free yards. And we talk about that a lot offensively, is we want to find explosive plays, but we also want to find just free yards, and if you can find free yards, then you can get off to good starts on drives, and it'll get you the explosives.
Obviously, Miles took a big step this year in his development, was All-American, had probably his best year of his career. You guys have to replace him now. Grant Harper comes back. You guys got some young guys who have been in the program or coming into the program. What do you want to see in terms of quarterback development? And is there a battle, or does it look like Grant's going to be the guy this year right now sitting in that at least the driver's seat as we sit here and talk in April?
Yeah, I think the cool part, this is my favorite part of coaching quarterbacks, is when you have young guys and you get to start day one with them and really develop them and see where they can go. Grant, even though he's an older guy coming back, he's been in Davis now for 5-6 years. So you really get to see his full development. He gets an opportunity. Really at this point, we're looking at him and then one of our younger guys, Caden Pinnock, and giving them a strong look as to what they can do offensively. But also we got two younger guys in Damon Reichster and David Razor that we're trying to see where they can trying to get a feel for at the end of spring, kind of where those four guys are at, to see if someone jumps out and takes the lead, or maybe it goes from 4 down to 2. And then we also have some young guys coming in that we think are really special quarterbacks. So having a quarterback at Davis is never going to be hard to find a good one. I think the hard part for us is going to be we're going to have multiple talented players. Who's the best fit for 2025? Who's the best guy for the job right now? And I'm excited to see where those guys are at. But I don't think you replace a guy like Miles. You don't just replace a guy that threw for 4,500 yards. He left his stamp. Now it's our job to really grow and build another one. And that's the fun part of coaching quarterbacks, I think, is you bring them in here. And we always talk about how you raise quarterbacks. You raise them like sons. So we get to raise these guys now and see which guy, separates from the herd, which will be cool.
Defensively, you guys are going to have a bunch of new starters on the defensive side of the ball, and I think your transfer portal class kind of showed that, right? It wasn't a big portal class. You see the Sac States of the world adding 30, 40 guys. You guys added a small but experienced group of guys. Kalani Riddick was a contributor at SEMO. Both the defense linemen from the Ivy League, Darrell Porter, and those guys contributors. How important was it for you to add experience while also just looking for maybe untapped potential when you approach adding players from the transfer portal?
I think for us, we always look at the transfer portal differently. Not that a team that brings in 30, 40 guys is wrong. I think there's multiple ways to do it. I really like to develop players. I really like to bring them into our program and develop them. And so we really look at the transfer portal more as kind of that free agent fill-in. So like we look at our roster at the end of recruiting and we say, okay, through the 20 high school guys we recruited, we're still short here. We're short at D-line or we're short at safety. Okay, let's go find a veteran guy that's played a lot of football that we can bring in with experience. And that way our younger guys don't feel like they have to play right away. But it also allows us to develop them. If we just bring in 30, 40 transfers every year, then who are we really developing? And now we're just kind of doing the quick fix thing. I think you can get trapped in that. So for us, we want to bring in young high school players and develop them. And then we want to fill in those spots every year with 5 or 6 guys that can help us. Last year was David Meyer at linebacker, was a big help to us. And this year, I think it's going to be again on the defensive side. Feel really good about the 2 D linemen from the Ivies. Feel great about our safeties. We got from Boston College and UTEP, and you talked about Kalani. Got a linebacker from Cal. So I feel really good about us being able to bring in some veteran guys so that when we have our young players, which I'm excited about, our young D linemen and Jake Williams and Rain Mayo. I'm excited about our young linebacker and Jackson Sievers. I'm excited about having Rex back at safety. So we got some players back, but now maybe the pressure of some of our freshmen to feel like, oh man, I got to play right now. We can bring in a guy that's going to be here for 1 year. He can fill in that role for us, help us win while we develop, and then we'll develop those younger guys. And hopefully that's kind of the same circle we're on every year. So defensively, we had to fill in a lot of guys because we graduated so many. But I think we did a great job identifying talented players, but also guys that fit our environment and they can come in and play right away with experience.
Coach, there's a lot of difficult conversations going on around collegiate athletics in general, right? With the house settlement, NIL, the portal. How do you and your staff navigate those difficult conversations at the end of the year where a guy might approach you and ask for an NIL deal or say that you mentioned land getting offers from SEC programs? How do you guys approach those types of situations in the offseason?
Yeah, I think we got to know who you are, and I think if you're trying to fight it, it's a fight you're going to lose. That is the world we live in. We're not going to sit here and complain about it or whine about it. Okay, how do we survive and thrive in this world? And so I think for us at Davis, what we first have to do is create a great environment that the staff and players want to be at. They want to be a part of it. They don't want to leave it. That's job number 1. And then job number 2 is just, showing your athletes that like, okay, what we want you to do is come here and develop. We want you to become the best version of you. We want you to get a degree from Davis because that's going to open up a lot of doors for you. And then you can figure out what the best path is. You want to be like Teddy Buchanan and graduate and go transfer and play linebacker at Cal and make 6 figures and end up being all ACCs and get drafted. Great. Or you can stay like Land, get paid a little bit less, leave a legacy here at Davis, go down as one of the greatest guys to do it, and then go to the NFL. So I think you can do it in multiple ways. And I think for us to judge those players is wrong. I think what we need to do is look at every situation uniquely, do what's best for the young man. And that might not be what's best for Davis's football team. And that's okay. Our job is to develop the player, get him to become the best version of him. And then on the flip side, if I'm recruiting a young high school player, I can get in their living room and say, hey, if you come play for me and play for us, we're going to develop you. We're going to make you so good that one of these schools is going to pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars to go play for them. Or we're going to make you so good that 32 NFL teams are going to come to our pro day, just like they did for Land. So either way, that's a win for us. We're going to get more good players because they see how we develop our players. And then if they end up finishing their career somewhere else, then that's their journey, and I was happy to be a part of it. So I think for us to fight it is not the way to go. I'm excited about creating a good environment that people want to be a part of. I think that'll help us continue to get great players. And then from a NIL collective standpoint, I think we're doing a great job here at Davis at slowly, realistically building what we can afford to help our environment improve for our guys, whether that's, helping guys pay for their rent all through the school year, helping guys financially. It's expensive to live in California and all that. So I think helping with nutrition so we can feed all of our players. So I think we're looking at it more holistically, like how can we create a good environment for our guys? We know we're not going to be able to pay our great players the same amount that a Power 4 school is going to be able to pay. Hopefully we can create a good enough environment and give them enough where they feel like they can have their best experience here.
Coach Springball, get ready to fire up for you. Outside of the quarterback battle, because that's what everyone's going to want to talk about is quarterback development. Are there any other positional battles that you and your staff are watching very closely that you feel like is going to be integral to you guys repeating the success you guys had in 2024?
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see the running back battle that's taken over for Lamb. We got three guys that we're really excited about. Mateo Perez and Jordan Fisher played a lot last year and did well. We also got a young back named Carter Vargas that everyone's excited about. So seeing how those three guys fit in is going to be really fun. I think watching the inside linebacker spot, David Meyer leaving. I mentioned Jackson Severs, a young linebacker, but we also got Nate Racina, transfer linebacker from Cal that we really like. I think the field safety position, figuring out who's going to line up next to Rex and the nickel, kind of that string, how that's pulled together with our transfers and some of our younger guys. I think that'll be a cool battle. So I'd say those are probably the positions that, every single day we're going to have some evaluation on to see kind of who's in the lead, which will be fun.
Coach, the last two questions here. One is, it's you got to be, I would say, adaptable with just like you said earlier, with all the guys coming in and out, the transfer portal, NIL, things like that. How do you balance being quick on your toes, right, with this landscape of college football, but also knowing where your non-negotiables are as a football program and as building a culture that you ultimately want to go win a national championship with?
Yeah, that's why I think it's tough if you're trying to overhaul your roster every year, because how do you expect your players to hold everybody accountable if that's never an ever evolving door? I think it's important to build an environment in your building that is player led, right? And so you can only do that by raising your players and developing and growing them, and know that when you get this influx of new guys coming in, there's already a standard in place. There's already above the line behavior that you've laid out for your team. And now your players and staff can hold everybody accountable to that standard. And so I think it's more important about taking care of your own building and taking care of your house before you start bringing extra people in. And hopefully we've done a good job of that. And hopefully every year you kind of build on that, and that foundation grows into a nice, beautiful mansion that these guys move into. But there's a standard that they live by on a day in, day out basis. So we're trying to build that right now. And we feel like we got a chance in the next couple of years to try to build something consistent. But that's probably our greatest challenge, is creating that environment and then sustaining it.
And that kind of builds into my last question, Coach. Obviously, everyone knows that right now North Dakota State, defending national champions, kind of the standard in FCS football. Montana State's trending there. They're almost there. It haven't broke through. South Dakota had a good year. You guys are in that next tier, right, with the Incarnate Words, the UC Davises, the ones that are right there and just need a breakthrough year. What is next for this program, and how much pressure is on you to take this program from an annual playoff contender to a national title contender year in and year out?
Yeah, I think pressure is self-applied, right? So I think people that aren't prepared, maybe they feel that. I feel excitement. I feel real gratitude to be a part of this. And I think you hit it on the head. When I got here, I remember telling our administration, "Hey, I feel like we're a top 15 program, but I feel like there's a top 4 or 5 that we're not in yet, and we got to figure out a way to knock that door down and get in there." And I think, going back to your earlier question, having that experience again of, all right, we played Montana State and played them tough and they got us, felt like we were right there. Played one of the Dakotas late in the playoffs on the road, and that's kind of been something that's happened to us multiple times. And so I think our administration sees it, our players see it, our alumni sees it. It's like, all right, we are close, but sometimes that last 10-15% is the hardest to do. And so I think we got to decide as a program, are we willing to roll our sleeves up and get that last 10-15% done, and to take the next, however many years it takes for us to knock that door down. But I think we're gonna be there multiple times. That's the key. We got to get there, stay there, and eventually we'll kick that door down. And when we do, it'll be everyone that's been here before us, the whole Aggie Nation, finding joy together out there, which will be pretty cool.
Coach, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on to talk all things UC Davis football. I want to congratulate you on an amazing first season. Congratulate you on all that success, and hopefully I'll be able to make the trip to Big Sky Media Day. Hopefully, get to come out to UC Davis for a game. I'm all the way down in Alabama. Long trip to California, but we'll have to make it soon. So, anything you want to say to the UC Davis fans out there, Coach, and then we'll get out of here.
Well, first, man, you got to come to our first game. We play Mercer in Alabama.
I'll be there.
0 week.
I
Okay,
will
so
be there.
you be there. That's going to be two really good teams on FCS kickoff weekend. So we're excited to be on ESPN and play that game. But no, I'm thankful for you shining a light on our program. Anytime we can get some eyes on our program, it's important because we know we're a growing team that's trying, like you said, trying to get on that national stage. So I appreciate you taking the time to shed some light on the Ags, and yeah, man, we'd love to get you out here and show you what UC Davis is. So you just let us know when, we'll get you out here.
Absolutely, Coach. Guys, make sure to go follow Coach Plough on all social media accounts. Be sure to go follow UC Davis football all across social media. Big season upcoming. But for Coach Plough, myself, the Bluebloods, FCS Football Central on SI, we are out for right now.